A single act of kindness cost her job, but when the truth came out, it changed her life in ways no one could have imagined. Emily had been working at Sunnyside Cafe for nearly 3 years. She knew the place like the back of her hand, the clinking of plates, hum of the espresso machine, the chatter of regular customers. She wasn't just a waitress. She was the kind of person who made the cafe feel like a second home. Even on her busiest days, when trays teetered with heavy plates and orders came faster than she could write them down, she always wore a smile. Her coworkers often joked that she had magical patience. Her manager had a habit of calling her the backbone of the morning shifts. On a sunny Thursday morning, Emily arrived early. She tied her apron, pinned her name tag, and greeted the cleaning crew with a cheerful good morning. Her favorite part of the day was setting up the tables, folding napkins just so, making sure each table looked inviting. She always believed that small details made customers feel special. By the time the first customers arrived, she was ready. Moving between tables with practiced ease, the cafe started to fill with the usual crowd. A group of office workers came in, chatting loudly about deadlines. A mother with 2 toddlers settled in a corner, hoping to finish her coffee before her children created chaos. Emily moved from table to table, taking orders, refilling water glasses, and making jokes to put everyone at ease. She remembered each customer's preferences: the regular who always wanted a black coffee, the man who asked for extra sugar, the woman who liked her latte with a swirl of chocolate. It wasn't just about serving food. It was about making people feel remembered. Around mid-morning, a man entered the cafe who didn't look like a regular customer. He was well-dressed, wearing a neat suit, and had an air of quiet confidence. Emily noticed him immediately. He didn't rush to the counter or glance at the menu. He simply looked around, observing the cafe as if he were studying it. Emily, being the observant person she was, walked over with a warm smile. "Good morning. Welcome to Sunnyside Cafe. Can I get you started with a coffee or something to eat?" she asked, genuinely friendly. The man smiled faintly and nodded. "Just a coffee, please. Black." Emily nodded and moved quickly to prepare the order. While making the coffee, she noticed him glance at the menu board, not ordering anything else. She decided to add a little extra touch. When she brought the coffee over, she set it down carefully, placing a small cookie on the side. "I thought you might like a little treat with your coffee," she said. The man looked surprised but pleased. "Thank you. That's very thoughtful of you." Emily smiled. "We like to make our customers feel welcome here." She didn't know it yet, but this man was the undercover boss of the entire restaurant chain. He had come to observe how employees treated customers without knowing they were being watched. Emily, as usual, had no idea who he really was. To her, he was just another customer, and she treated him the same way she treated everyone else, with kindness and genuine care. The man sat quietly, sipping his coffee, occasionally glancing around at the staff. Emily continued with her work, but kept an eye on him, making sure he had everything he needed. She refilled his coffee without being asked, and asked if he wanted a refill on his water glass. He nodded politely each time, clearly impressed by her attention. As the morning went on, more customers arrived. Emily balanced her attention between the regulars and the new visitors, always ensuring that everyone felt attended to. When the cafe got particularly busy, she didn't get flustered. She moved with efficiency, taking orders, serving food, clearing tables, and even helping coworkers when they needed it. Her energy never seemed to fade. Her coworkers noticed her extra attention to the suited man. One of the newer waitresses whispered, "Why are you giving him so much attention? He's just a customer." Emily shook her head. "It's not about him being special. It's about making sure every customer feels welcome. You can't tell just by looking at someone what kind of day they're having." By noon, Emily had served dozens of customers, but she still treated each one with the same warmth. The undercover boss had noticed everything: her patience, her kindness, her attentiveness. She didn't rush through tasks or treat anyone as unimportant. He observed how she managed stress, how she handled complaints, and how she went above and beyond without expecting anything in return. During the lunch rush, a group of teenagers came in, loud and messy. They spilled drinks and complained about the wrong order. Most servers would have gotten frustrated, but Emily stayed calm. She cleaned up the spill, replaced the drinks, and made jokes to lighten the mood. Surprisingly, the teenager started smiling and even thanked her. The undercover boss was quietly impressed by how she maintained her composure and treated everyone with respect. After the rush, Emily took a brief moment to breathe, wiping her hands on her apron. She looked around the cafe and felt a sense of pride. She loved her job not because of the paycheck, but because she could make a difference in people's days. Every smile she received from a customer felt like a small reward, a confirmation that her hard work mattered. The suited man stood up to leave. Emily approached him with her usual friendly demeanor. "I hope you enjoyed your coffee. Have a great day." He nodded, smiling. "Thank you. You've been very kind." Emily waved goodbye, not realizing the significance of her actions. She had treated him like any other customer, yet her genuine care had stood out. To the rest of the staff, it was just another day. But for Emily, it was another opportunity to be the kind, hard-working person she always tried to be. What Emily didn't know was that her simple acts of kindness and dedication were being noticed by someone with the power to change her life. The undercover boss left the cafe with a keen sense of admiration, already forming a plan in his mind about the employees who truly represented the values of the company. Emily, meanwhile, continued her day, blissfully unaware that her ordinary morning was about to set the stage for something extraordinary. She continued to serve tables, refill drinks, and smile at customers. She joked with a little girl who wanted extra whipped cream on her hot chocolate, helped an elderly man carry his tray to a table, and even comforted a customer who had just received bad news over the phone. Emily believed in treating everyone like a person, not just another order to fill. By the end of her shift, she was tired but satisfied. The cafe slowly emptied, and Emily began cleaning up, stacking chairs and wiping tables. She reflected on the morning, unaware that the small choices she made, choosing patience over frustration, kindness over indifference, had already caught the attention of someone very important that day. Emily had done nothing extraordinary by most people's standards. She had simply done her job well, with heart and attention. But sometimes, that's all it takes for life to notice you. Emily had just finished her morning shift, exhausted but feeling proud. She had given her best, as she always did, and thought she had handled the busy cafe well. She loved her job and believed in treating every customer with respect, no matter how demanding they might be. Little did she know, her day of hard work and kindness was about to take a turn she never expected. Around midday, her manager, Mr. Thompson, called her into the small office at the back of the cafe. Emily felt a small flutter of unease. Usually meetings meant minor complaints or instructions, nothing serious. But the look on Mr. Thompson's face made her pause. His brow was furrowed, and his lips pressed tightly together, which was never a good sign. "Emily," he began, trying to sound professional, "I need to talk to you about your behavior this morning." Emily's heart skipped a beat. Behavior. She had only done her job. "I'm not sure what you mean," she said cautiously. Mr. Thompson didn't hesitate. "You've been spending too much time with a certain customer? You were ignoring other tables, breaking protocol, and giving special treatment. That's unacceptable." Emily was stunned. "I was just making sure every customer was happy. I didn't ignore anyone. I was working as fast as I could." But Mr. Thompson shook his head. "It doesn't matter what your intentions were. You broke the rules. I have no choice. You're fired, effective immediately." Emily felt her world crash. Fired? Just like that? She blinked, trying to process his words. "Fired, but I didn't do anything wrong." "Rules are rules, Emily," Mr. Thompson replied coldly. "You're done here." Emily left the office, clutching her apron in her hands. Her mind was spinning. She had spent years working at Sunnyside Caf, pouring her heart into her job, treating customers with care and building relationships with regulars. How could it all end in a single conversation? Her coworkers looked at her in shock as she walked past them. Some whispered, some stared silently, but no one stopped her. She stepped outside. The sun bright on her face, but it offered no comfort. She felt humiliated, betrayed, and angry all at once. Her mind raced with questions. Why had the manager misjudged her? She had only been doing her best. She had gone above and beyond, and now she was being punished for it. Her first instinct was to call her best friend, Maya, who had always supported her through tough times. "Maya, I don't understand," Emily said, her voice shaking. "I got fired. I didn't do anything wrong. I was just helping customers." Maya's voice was calm but firm. "Emily, you know how unfair people can be. But this isn't the end. You're a good worker. Don't let one bad decision ruin your confidence." Emily wanted to believe her friend, but it was hard. She walked home, replaying the events in her mind, feeling the sting of injustice. She thought about the suited man she had helped earlier, the one who had seemed so kind. She didn't know his real identity, but she remembered his polite smile and how he had seemed to notice her effort. The thought brought a small spark of hope. Maybe someone out there knew the truth. The news of her firing spread quickly among the cafe staff. Some coworkers were sympathetic, offering words of encouragement. "It's not fair," one of them whispered. "You were doing nothing wrong." Others, however, avoided her, fearing that associating with someone who had been fired could cause trouble for them. Emily felt a mixture of gratitude and sadness. She had worked closely with these people for years, and now she realized that fear often silences even the kindest hearts. Emily's mind kept going back to the morning. She had always tried to see the best in people, even her manager. She knew Mr. Thompson could be strict, but she never imagined he would misunderstand her intentions so badly. She felt frustrated that her hard work, her dedication, and her genuine care for customers were being punished instead of appreciated. Determined not to let this break her, Emily decided to fight back in the only way she knew: how honestly. She took out her phone and began to write a post on social media. She explained the situation carefully, describing how she had been fired for helping a customer, even though she had been doing her job well. She shared her feelings, her confusion, and her sadness, hoping to reach people who would understand her side of the story. When she posted it, she didn't expect much. Maybe a few likes or supportive comments from friends. But almost immediately, her post started to gain attention. People resonated with her honesty and fairness. They admired her kindness, and they couldn't believe that someone could be punished for simply doing the right thing. Comments poured in, messages of support appeared, and shares multiplied. Her story was going viral, and suddenly, Emily was no longer just a waitress who had been fired. She had become a symbol of fairness and integrity. Local news stations even picked up her story. Reporters called her, wanting to know more. Emily gave interviews, her voice steady despite the lingering hurt. She explained how she had simply treated a customer with care, and how the manager's misunderstanding had led to her dismissal. She emphasized that her goal had always been to make people feel welcome and valued. Meanwhile, the restaurant chain began to notice the growing attention. Headquarters received complaints and questions from viewers who were outraged by the treatment of a loyal, hard-working employee. The pressure mounted, and questions about the manager's judgment started to reach higher levels. Emily, despite the public support, still faced the personal challenge of coping with her firing. She worried about bills, rent, and her family's needs. Even though people admired her online, reality demanded that she find a way to survive without her usual income. She began applying for other jobs, but the experience left her cautious and wary. She realized that sometimes being good and kind didn't immediately lead to reward, at least not in the way she expected. Unbeknownst to Emily, the suited man from that morning, the customer she had helped, was also aware of the news. From his perspective, he had been impressed by her attention and patience. He watched the news story with growing concern. He recognized her instantly and began to piece together that she had been fired unjustly. What he saw was a hard-working employee whose dedication and integrity were being misunderstood and punished. The contrast between Emily's kindness and the manager's harshness created a sense of urgency in him. He realized that someone had to correct this mistake before it caused more damage. His role as an undercover boss had given him the insight to recognize true talent and dedication. and Emily's actions that day had stood out above all others. For Emily, each passing day felt like a test of patience and resilience. She received messages from strangers encouraging her to keep going, reminding her that the truth would eventually be recognized. She slowly began to feel a renewed sense of hope. Perhaps, just perhaps, someone would notice her efforts. Someone with the power to make things right. Even in her despair, Emily refused to let bitterness take over. She kept her routine, helped friends, and continued to act with kindness. She understood that her value wasn't determined by one person's misunderstanding, but by her actions and the positive impact she had on others. Her firing had left her feeling vulnerable, but it had also shown her the importance of integrity and patience. Every day she reminded herself that she had done nothing wrong, that she had acted with honesty and care, and that someday things would turn in her favor. And somewhere quietly observing, the man she had helped that morning, the undercover boss, was beginning to plan how to intervene. He had seen her dedication, her kindness, and her unwavering professionalism. Emily's story was about to take an unexpected turn, but she had no idea how soon that change would come. Emily sat on her small apartment couch, staring at her phone, scrolling through the comments on her social media post. Her hands trembled slightly, and she felt a strange mix of emotions: shock, relief, and a glimmer of hope. When she first shared the story about being fired for helping a customer, she thought maybe a few friends would read it and offer some comfort. She never imagined that the post would explode overnight. Drawing attention from people all over the city, even the country, the comments kept coming. Strangers called her kind-hearted, brave, and fair. Many people shared their own stories of being treated unfairly at work, and they expressed solidarity with her situation. Emily read each one carefully, feeling tears prick her eyes. For the first time since she was fired, she realized that she wasn't alone. People could see the truth. She had acted with honesty and integrity, and that deserved recognition, not punishment. News reporters soon contacted her, wanting interviews for local television and newspapers. Emily agreed, a little nervously, but she wanted to tell her side of the story. She explained how she had simply tried to help a customer, offering attentive service, refilling drinks, and ensuring that every guest felt welcomed. She described her manager's misunderstanding, the unfair firing, and her shock at the sudden turn of events. Her voice remained calm and sincere, and her honesty shone through every word. The reporters were impressed. They described her as a devoted employee who had been treated unjustly, highlighting her patience, dedication, and kindness. Emily began to notice something she hadn't expected. People were starting to rally behind her, sharing her story, demanding that the restaurant reconsider their actions. The support was overwhelming. Messages poured in from people she didn't know, encouraging her to keep her head up, telling her she deserved better, and praising her for her courage, while Emily's story was gaining attention. The cafe staff experienced their own reactions. Some coworkers quietly expressed sympathy. They felt guilty for not speaking up, wishing they had supported her more openly. Others were hesitant, worried that defending Emily could bring trouble upon themselves. The atmosphere in the cafe became tense, with many employees now uncertain about how management would react to the growing publicity. Some whispered about the incident, clearly uncomfortable, while others watched the news reports on their phones during breaks. Meanwhile, at the corporate level, the restaurant chain began to notice the negative attention. Emails flooded the headquarters, complaints were filed, and the story started to trend on social media. Executives and managers were alarmed at the public backlash. They didn't like seeing a loyal employee's reputation tarnished. And worse, they were worried about the damage to the company's image. People were questioning how a hardworking, dedicated waitress could be fired for simply being kind and attentive. Emily, unaware that her story was reaching the very top, felt a strange mix of fear and hope. She worried about her future, wondering if she would ever find another job. But at the same time, she realized that the world had taken notice of her actions. Every supportive comment, every shared post, and every news article made her feel stronger. She started to believe that maybe, just maybe, justice could be restored. Among the people following her story was the suited man from that fateful morning, the undercover boss. He had left the cafe impressed by her patience, kindness, and professionalism. And now he watched as the news confirmed what he had already suspected. Emily was exceptional. He realized that the manager had completely misunderstood her actions and that a true opportunity was being overlooked. He had a clear picture in his mind of the person who represented the company's values the best. And that person was Emily. The undercover boss began reviewing the reports and feedback more carefully. He wanted to understand exactly what had happened, why she had been fired, and how the public had reacted. He contacted colleagues, reviewed footage from the cafe, and pieced together the story from start to finish. Everything pointed to the same truth. Emily had acted with genuine care. She had gone above and beyond for a customer, and the firing had been completely unjustified. Emily continued to navigate her days as best she could. She applied for jobs, attended interviews, and tried to maintain her confidence. But the loss of her position weighed heavily on her. Bills were due, and her savings weren't enough to cover everything, yet she refused to let despair take over. Her friends and family supported her as much as possible, and the public attention brought a sense of hope. She hadn't felt before. The pressure on the cafe and its management increased. The viral nature of Emily's story had made the situation impossible to ignore. Executives were now directly involved, asking questions about policies, manager behavior, and how to prevent such misunderstandings in the future. Staff members who had remained quiet started to realize that Emily's actions had not only highlighted an injustice, but it also revealed flaws in how the cafe was managed. Emily's story began to inspire people beyond her city. Social media users discussed the importance of fairness in the workplace, the value of treating customers well, and how small acts of kindness can be noticed and appreciated. People debated the manager's decisions. Many expressed frustration at how a simple act of doing one's job correctly could be misinterpreted as breaking rules. Emily's post had grown beyond her personal story. It had become a larger conversation about respect, fairness, and integrity in everyday work life. Through it all, Emily remained humble. She never asked for attention or praise. Her goal had always been to do her job well, to make people feel comfortable and valued. But now her honesty and integrity were being recognized on a scale she had never imagined. She read every message carefully, letting the support fuel her confidence. Slowly, she began to believe that this public attention could lead to real change. The undercover boss, now fully aware of her firing and the public reaction, began planning his next step. He wanted to intervene personally, to ensure that Emily's dedication was rewarded rather than punished. He recognized that she wasn't just an exemplary employee. She was a person of character, someone who embodied the best values of the company. Her treatment had been unfair, and he was determined to correct it. Emily, meanwhile, continued her day-to-day life, unaware that her story was about to reach a turning point. She focused on her job applications, her family, and her friends, keeping her head down despite the excitement around her. Yet, with every news report, every shared post, and every message of support, she felt a growing sense of validation. People could see what she already knew. She had acted with integrity, kindness, and professionalism. Even when faced with uncertainty about her future, Emily refused to let bitterness take over. She knew that one day the truth would be recognized, and that her dedication and honesty would not go unnoticed. In her heart, she held on to hope, trusting that her hard work and kind actions would eventually lead to something good. The story of Emily, the fired waitress who had been treated unfairly, had captured the attention of a city, a nation, and now even the person who had the power to change everything, her undercover boss, what started as a simple morning in the cafe, serving coffee and cookies with a smile, had grown into something far bigger than Emily could have imagined. She was no longer just a waitress. She was a symbol of fairness, integrity, and kindness in the workplace. And somewhere, quietly watching and planning, the man who had witnessed her dedication firsthand was preparing to step in. He knew Emily deserved more than an apology. She deserved recognition, reward, and a chance to continue her work in a place that truly valued her. The moment of change was approaching, and Emily's life was about to take an unexpected turn, one that would validate her actions, her integrity, and the simple, honest way she treated people every day. Emily had been living with a mixture of hope and anxiety ever since her story went viral. Every day brought new messages of support, but she still hadn't heard from anyone at the restaurant who could actually change her situation. She continued applying for jobs, but nothing seemed to fit. Deep down, she felt that her life could take a big turn, but she had no idea it was closer than she imagined. One morning, while Emily was scrolling through her messages, her phone rang. The caller ID showed an unknown number. Hesitant but curious, she answered. "Hello, is this Emily?" A calm, professional voice asked. "Yes, this is she," Emily replied, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. "My name is David Grant," the voice continued. "I'm calling from the corporate office of Sunnyside Cafe. I want to talk to you about what happened at your workplace." Emily's heart skipped a beat. She had been hoping for someone from corporate to notice, but she hadn't expected a direct call so soon. "Okay. I'm listening," she said cautiously. David explained that he was the owner and CEO of the restaurant chain, and that he had been personally reviewing her case. Emily froze, unable to believe what she was hearing. She remembered the suited man who had visited the cafe weeks ago. Could it be him? Her mind raced, recalling how attentive she had been that morning and how impressed he seemed. "I've been following your story and reading about what happened," David said. "It's clear to me that you acted with kindness, integrity, and professionalism. You were doing exactly what our company values, and it seems your local manager misunderstood your actions." Emily felt a rush of relief, mixed with disbelief. You mean I wasn't in the wrong?" she asked, her voice trembling. "You were absolutely right," David confirmed. "You treated a customer with care and went above and beyond, and that's the kind of behavior we want in our employees. I want to apologize for how this situation was handled and to offer you a chance to return to your job with a promotion. If you're willing." Emily was speechless. The mix of emotions, shock, joy, and relief was almost overwhelming. She hadn't imagined that the same person who had unknowingly observed her work that morning would later take the time to personally intervene. She felt validation for every act of kindness she had shown, for every extra minute spent making customers feel welcome. "I don't know what to say," Emily finally managed. "I never expected this." David chuckled softly. "No need to say much. I just want to make sure the right thing is done. Your dedication and honesty deserve recognition, not punishment. We want to support you and ensure you have the opportunities you deserve." Over the next few days, David arranged a meeting for Emily at the corporate office. When she arrived, she was warmly welcomed. He personally congratulated her and explained that she would not only be reinstated at her old position, but also offered a supervisor role, giving her more responsibilities, a higher salary, and recognition for her work. Emily felt a sense of pride and accomplishment that she had never experienced before. The person who had been fired unjustly, who had felt powerless for weeks, was now being acknowledged for her commitment and kindness. It was a moment that made her realize the power of integrity and perseverance. During the meeting, David also addressed the local manager, Mr. Thompson. He explained the situation, emphasizing how Emily's actions had represented the company's values and how the manager's misunderstanding had led to an unjust firing. Mr. Thompson was reprimanded and reassigned, ensuring that no other employee would face a similar situation under his supervision. Emily listened quietly, feeling a mixture of vindication and relief. She didn't feel joy at the manager's punishment, but she felt justice had been served. Returning to her hometown cafe, Emily was greeted with smiles and congratulations from coworkers who had once been silent but now felt inspired by her story. Customers who had followed her story online also expressed their happiness and admiration. Emily felt a renewed sense of purpose. She wasn't just serving coffee and food anymore. She was making an example of kindness, patience, and integrity that everyone could see. David also arranged for Emily to participate in company-wide training, where she could share her story and inspire other employees. She realized that her experience, painful as it had been, had transformed her life and could now help others understand the importance of doing the right thing. Even when misunderstood, Emily embraced her new responsibilities wholeheartedly. She trained new staff, showing them how to be attentive, empathetic, and professional. She helped improve customer experiences and created a positive, supportive environment in the cafe. Every day she reminded herself of the morning she had unknowingly impressed the undercover boss, and how her small acts of care had eventually led to this credible opportunity. Her story began to inspire others beyond her workplace. Friends, family, and even strangers told her that her perseverance had encouraged them to act with kindness in their own jobs, to be patient, and to maintain integrity even when situations seemed unfair. Emily felt a profound sense of fulfillment. What had started as a difficult and confusing experience had turned into a powerful lesson about the rewards of honesty and compassion. One day, while supervising the lunch rush, Emily noticed a familiar figure walk into the cafe. It was the same suited man who had come weeks ago, the undercover boss who had inspired this change. He smiled at her from across the room, a silent acknowledgement of how far she had come. Emily waved, feeling a mixture of gratitude and pride. She realized that her life had changed because of a combination of her dedication, her kindness, and her unwavering commitment to doing what was right. Emily's journey didn't just restore her job. It gave her confidence, recognition, and a platform to influence others positively. She had faced unfair treatment, public scrutiny, and personal challenges. But through it all, she had remained true to herself. Her story became an example of how one person's integrity could impact the lives of many, and how small acts of care could ripple out to create larger change. Even weeks later, Emily would reflect on her experience and feel grateful. She knew that moments of injustice could be transformed into opportunities for growth and recognition. She had learned that life sometimes tests patience and perseverance, but those who remain true to their values are often rewarded in ways they could never imagine. By the end of this chapter of her life, Emily had not only reclaimed her position, but had also gained respect, admiration, and a new sense of purpose. Her story became a lesson in kindness, fairness, and the power of doing what is right, even when it seems no one is watching. The person who had once been overlooked and fired was now celebrated and empowered, proving that integrity and dedication always leave a lasting impact. Emily walked into Sunnyside Cafe on her first day back, feeling a mixture of excitement and nerves. She had been away for weeks, but now she wasn't just returning as a waitress, she was stepping into a new role as a supervisor, someone entrusted with responsibility and recognition. As she entered, the familiar smell of coffee and fresh pastries wrapped around her like a warm hug. Reminding her why she loved this place so much, her coworkers greeted her with smiles. Some shy, some openly happy to see her. A few clapped quietly, and others gave small cheers, making Emily feel both proud and emotional. It was a different atmosphere than the last time she had walked in. The tension and uncertainty that had followed her firing were gone, replaced by a sense of relief and celebration. Emily smiled, waving to everyone, feeling gratitude for their support and patience. The cafe was busy, as usual, with customers chatting, ordering, and enjoying their meals. Emily moved among the tables, checking that everything was running smoothly. She guided new staff, showing them the best way to interact with customers, teaching them small gestures that could make a big difference, like remembering names, refilling drinks promptly, or adding a tiny treat to a coffee order. She remembered how these little actions had once brought her recognition, and she wanted to pass that knowledge on to her team. During the lunch rush, Emily spotted a familiar figure standing near the entrance. It was the undercover boss, the man she had helped that morning weeks ago, whose kindness and attention had ultimately changed her life. He gave her a small nod and a smile. Emily felt a rush of emotion. She had never expected to see him again in person, and now his presence reminded her of how far she had come. She felt proud, but also grateful, knowing that her small acts of care had been noticed and had made a difference. As the day progressed, Emily embraced her new responsibilities fully. She supervised shifts, helped solve problems, and ensured that the cafe ran smoothly. She encouraged teamwork, reminding staff that kindness and attentiveness to customers were just as important as speed and efficiency. Her energy and positive attitude quickly became infectious, lifting the morale of everyone around her. Employees who had once been silent or fearful now felt inspired to follow her example, creating a warmer, more welcoming environment for both staff and customers. David Grant, the CEO, visited the cafe later that week to see the improvements firsthand. He watched as Emily interacted with her team and the customers, noting her professionalism, kindness, and leadership skills. He was impressed by how she had turned a difficult experience into a powerful lesson, not just for herself but for the entire team. Emily felt a sense of pride. Realizing that her dedication had gone beyond just doing a job, it had influenced and improved the workplace for everyone. Word of Emily's return. A new role spread quickly among the local community. Regular customers who had supported her during her firing came in to congratulate her. They expressed how much they admired her perseverance, her positive attitude, and the grace with which she had handled the entire situation. Emily felt a deep connection with the people around her. They had seen her dedication firsthand, and now they were celebrating her success with genuine happiness. The cafe also introduced a new initiative, inspired by Emily's Storia Star Employee Program, recognizing staff members who went above and beyond to treat customers with kindness and professionalism. Emily helped design the program, selecting criteria that emphasized patience, empathy, and dedication. She wanted other employees to experience the same recognition she had earned, knowing how much it could motivate and uplift someone working hard every day. Emily's life outside the cafe began to change as well. She had gained confidence, a sense of purpose, and a renewed belief in herself. She no longer doubted that doing the right thing mattered, even when it seemed unnoticed. Her story had shown her that integrity, kindness, and hard work could be recognized in ways she had never imagined. She also continued to receive messages from people who had been inspired by her experience, encouraging her to keep leading by example. One afternoon, David Grant approached Emily with a small envelope. He handed it to her with a smile. "This is a small token of appreciation for everything you've done, and for how you've handled this entire situation," he said. Emily opened it and found a letter along with a generous financial reward. The letter praised her dedication, patience, and integrity, explaining that her actions had reflected the true spirit of the company and deserved to be recognized in a meaningful way. Emily felt a wave of gratitude and surprise. She hadn't expected anything like this. Her acts of kindness had not only restored her career, but had also been valued and rewarded. The following weeks brought continued improvements in the cafe. Emily helped organize team-building activities, customer appreciation events, and training sessions to ensure that the level of service and care remained high. The cafe's atmosphere transformed, becoming more welcoming, efficient, and positive. Customers noticed the difference, praising both Emily and her team. Her story had become an inspiration, not just within the restaurant, but for the wider community. People admired how a single act of genuine kindness could ripple out and create meaningful change. Emily also began mentoring new employees personally, sharing her experiences and teaching them that integrity and empathy were just as important as skill and speed. She encouraged them to treat every customer with care, to remain patient under pressure, and to always do their best, even when no one seemed to notice. She emphasized that sometimes the smallest gestures could lead to the biggest impacts. Even the employees who had been skeptical or fearful during her firing now looked up to her. They had witnessed firsthand how Emily's dedication, honesty, and kindness had been recognized and rewarded. Many of them began to change their own approaches to work, inspired by her example. Emily realized that her journey had created a ripple effect, not just in the cafe, but in the mindset of everyone she worked with. As the months passed, Emily reflected on her journey. She remembered the initial firing, the public support. In the moment she received the call from the CEO, she thought about the fear and uncertainty she had felt, how she had persevered despite it. She realized that her actions, guided by kindness and integrity, had ultimately led to her personal and professional growth. Her experience had taught her the value of staying true to oneself, even in the face of adversity? One morning, Emily watched as a young waitress handled a particularly difficult customer. Instead of getting frustrated, the waitress remained calm, patient, and attentive, just as Emily had always done. Emily smiled quietly, feeling proud. She realized that her story had come full circle. She had not only reclaimed her career, but had also influenced the next generation of employees to act with empathy, professionalism, and integrity. Emily's journey became a story told within the cafe and beyond. People spoke about how she had faced injustice with grace, how she had persevered, and how she had ultimately transformed her workplace. She had turned a moment of unfair treatment into an opportunity for growth, leadership, and inspiration. Her story reminded everyone that doing the right thing, even when it seems unnoticed or unappreciated, can lead to unexpected rewards and meaningful change. By the time the cafe held a small celebration for the staff, Emily felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had faced hardship, public attention, and personal doubts, but she had emerged stronger, wiser, and more confident. She had reclaimed her job, gained respect, and inspired others. Her life had changed in ways she had never imagined when she first walked into the cafe weeks ago. Simply trying to do her job well, in the end, Emily realized that kindness, patience, and integrity were never wasted. Her small gestures, her dedication, her refusal to compromise her values had created a positive ripple effect, changing not only her own life, but the lives of everyone around her. She smiled, knowing that her journey had proven an important truth. Doing the right thing, even in difficult circumstances, can lead to unexpected and extraordinary outcomes. And as she served another cup of coffee to a smiling customer, Emily felt a quiet joy. She had faced unfairness, endured public scrutiny, navigated uncertainty, but she had emerged stronger, recognized, and respected. Her life had been transformed by her commitment to kindness and integrity, proving that sometimes doing the right thing really does pay off in ways you could never imagine.